ants digging a hole in the boy's neck, and lived inside him. To keep the class from finding out, usually he had to use a band-aid to seal the hole. Because of the presence of these ants, Shinny's food intake increased greatly. He had to keep eating every day. At the same time, this gave Shinny great strength. Even the most ferocious insect beasts can be easily defeated. On this day, late at night in an alley, two men trailing a sexy woman unhurriedly. Soon the girl was blocked in the corner. She could only cover her chest with her hands helplessly. Two men saw this with an obscene smile. But before the two men could extend their salty hands, there was a sudden sound of footsteps behind them. I saw the boy say indifferently, "If you do not want to die, then hurry up and go." Seeing that the visitor was just a student, the two robbers suddenly looked fierce. "You're the one who wants to die, right?" The boy stopped paying attention to the two men. He tore off the band-aid he had put on his neck. The little hole in his neck actually burst out a few ants. Just as one of the robbers tried to come up and teach him a lesson, there was a sudden scream behind him. He turned around and found that his companion had only the lower half of his body left, and the upper half of his body was in a big writhing mouth. And look at the beautiful woman just now. At this point, she has turned into a horrible monster. On the contrary, the boy has been wrapped in a layer of black fog all over his body. A closer look at this was a group of black ants. Early the next morning, the place was then blocked off by the relevant people. The leader was a long-haired man with glasses. They found the monster's body and the half-eaten body left here. It's hard to imagine who took out such a powerful monster. The only clue is the robber who escaped that night. He said a boy with a bug did it. These people who came to investigate were wearing the symbol of the insect beast reaper. This was a department set up by the government to deal with insect beasts and beasts. A few years ago, these insect beasts appeared out of nowhere. They mostly feed on people. The scariest thing is that these insect beasts can disguise themselves as humans. They live among us. In a schoolroom at this time, the class president was reading aloud from the Reaper section. A boy with a band-aid on his neck keeps bringing food into his mouth. After the class leader Name reads out the content. The teacher on the stage told the students to be careful these days, because the place where the accident happened last night is right next to the school. Hearing the teacher say that, Name looked at her friend in distress. The two of them decided to go home together after school. At the end of class, the teacher reminded Name to turn in her last assignment to the office. A sigh of relief came from the students' mouths as they listened, because not many people would finish their homework. After the teacher left, two students threatened Name not to collect homework, because it's impossible for anyone to complete such an assignment. But before the two finished speaking, a workbook was handed to the class president. It's Shinny with a band-aid on neck. But this also caused the two punks to get upset. They've had a problem with Shinny for a long time, putting a band-aid on neck and playing it cool. Is that a strawberry mark left by your girlfriend? Name, who had a crush on Shinny, immediately stood up. Don't talk nonsense. The boys didn't react to seeing Shinny, so he reached down and tore off the band-aid on his neck. But they didn't see any hickeys, and they only saw a small spot. The boy thinks he's been tricked. Then he picked up Shinny by the collar and tried to teach him a lesson. But then an ant came out of the hole and crawled under his clothes and hid. This scene instantly scared the boy to the ground and he screamed. People just thought he was crazy and didn't take it seriously. At the end of the school day, Name gave her and Shinny's homework to the teacher. They were the only ones in the class who finished their homework. The teacher's face immediately became gloomy when he learned of the situation. I don't know what he was muttering. While Name was wondering, the teacher looked up again with a smile. You and Shinny can go home after school. The rest of you stay and clean up the playground. Because of the strange events in the alley yesterday, Name was afraid to go home alone. Just saw Shinny, who was applying a band-aid in front of her. Because the two live not far from each other, Name then invited him to go home with him. But Shinny said she had something to do today and refused Name's invitation. The two guys who were left to clean up kept complaining. Shurjin told them to cut the crap and finish the job and go home. Name had to wait here for Shurjin because there was no one else to go with. At that moment, Shinny was sitting in the classroom and talking to herself. He seems to be communicating with the ants in this book about something. Two punks get ready to go after Shinny's trouble. While discussing what they saw yesterday about Shinny's ants, they walked towards the classroom. But just as they reached the corner, the short-haired man froze in his tracks, because there was a huge monster blocking the way. The short-haired man's head was cut off by the monster before he could react. The girl let out a creepy scream as she looked at the object that rolled to her feet. The students were all fascinated by the girl's screams. And then the girl went crazy through the crowd. Run! Everyone, there's an insect beast. The crowd turned around to find a giant spherical insect beast coming out. It was obviously too late to escape. By the time Name and Shurjin reacted, the bug beast was almost in front of them. The two men tried their best to escape. The four eyes behind him grabbed Shurjin in front of him in order to stay alive. She was then viciously yanked backwards. Shurjin loses focus, hit her head hard on a rock. Name rushed forward to help Shurjin up, and found that she had passed out, and she herself could only watch in despair as the insect beast slowly approached. And the monster stopped next to Name, only to see the top of his head slowly split open. The teacher's face appeared inside. Didn't I kindly tell you to leave after school? Since you don't listen to your teachers either, you can go to hell just like them. With that, the monster raised his fist and slammed it into Name. And at that moment, a colony of ants is coming here at a great speed. The monster's two arms were instantly cut off. Name looked behind him with a bewildered face. An armored warrior surrounded by a lot of black matter appeared in front of her. The warrior quickly caught Name, who had fainted from the shock. The bug beast looked at his falling arm and didn't care, because he had heard of the existence of the fellow hunter black ants. He just couldn't understand why the black ants were protecting humans. Facing the monster's hiss, the black ant responds with a punch. This punch slammed the monster directly into the wall, blood spurting out of his mouth. The black ants took the opportunity to carry the two girls on their backs and put them in a safe place. Then come to the monster again. He said the reason he hunted his own kind was just to eat them. The insect beast was instantly furious. In that case, then let me avenge the death of my compatriots. And the monster turned into a big ball, and then it shot at the black ants like a bullet. The black ant tried to fight it with strength, but was accidentally knocked away by the huge impact for several dozen meters. Looking at the black ants sitting on the ground, the monster wasn't going to let him go. The monster's legs slowly bent like a spring. Then the body flew into the sky like a cannonball, aimed at the black ants below and smashed down heavily towards his body. The black ant was too late to dodge and was hit head-on, spitting black blood. But it didn't end there. The monster continues to bounce away. A few more heavy blows to the black ant's body. By now, the black ant's limbs were completely twisted in the deep pit. He gave the ants the command to move despite the pain. At the same time, the monster's next attack was just around the corner. Only a loud bang was heard. The monster slammed down hard on the black ants. He thought this blow would be enough to smash the black ant into mush. But he didn't expect that not only was the black ant unharmed, instead his own body was pierced. The monster didn't understand what was going on. Black ant gives the command again. Convert. The armor that was wrapped around his feet slowly dissipated. The black matter slowly converged towards his arms. In the blink of an eye, a huge sharp claw appeared in front of him. At this point, the monster finally sensed the crisis, begging the black ant to let it go. But it's obviously too late to beg for mercy. He drove his claws directly into the monster's stomach. Then he lifted the monster above his head and slammed it into the ground. The monster regretted this moment. Obviously, I have heard of the black ant. Why do I still to mess with him? Without waiting for him to beg for mercy again, he was lifted into the air again by the black ants. And finally, with a roar from the black ants, the monster's entire body became twisted. With a loud bang, the monster turned into a blood mist. As they left, the black ants gave the order again. Eat it. The black substance that received the command left the black ant's body instantly. Shinny's figure slowly emerged. At this point, Shinny didn't notice. This battle was watched by the humanoid insect beast behind him, although he hid it well. But he was also investigated by the Reapers. Just now, he took out a terrible bug beast on campus. Shinny let the ants inside her eat the corpse of the bug beast after the Reaper sector came here. Looking at the scene of the dilapidation, the two hunters couldn't help but feel, and in vain to prepare so long. Judging by the traces of the scene, it's easy to see that this was a battle between two insect beasts. But insect beasts basically don't kill each other. What exactly happened between them? At this point, the captain suddenly remembered something. The female bugbear that appeared in the alley 2 days ago. The only survivor said she was taken out by a black ant boy. Just then the staff informed the captain. The wounded man saved by the bug beast woke up. Soon the two came to Name's side. Name recounted the events of that time. It was a black armored man who saved her from herself. Are you sure it was a human who saved you? Name not sure. But the man in black was definitely different from the other bug beasts. Through a simple inquiry, the captain felt that the man in black should be acquainted with Name. So he asked Name, were there any students who were not present at that time? Name replied, there was indeed one. Shinny was the only one who got out of school on time. By this time, Shinny had already returned home. Grandma was the first to welcome her. Let him go over for dinner. Shinny was a little helpless to see such a rich food, because he had just eaten a whole insect beast. He could only tell his grandmother that he had eaten. Grandma was shocked when she heard that, and then she immediately asked if Shinny was hurt. Shinny just felt that she had let down her grandmother. Grandma said as long as people are okay, get some rest. After watching Shinny walk into the room, Grandma couldn't hold it any longer. Tears flowed unconsciously. Why is my Shinny suffering like this? At this moment the ants outside the window crawled into the window in an orderly manner. Shinny was lying quietly on the bed, listening to the reports of the daytime school bug beasts, letting those ants go one by one to the hole in the neck. In an abandoned construction site on the outskirts of the city, several soldiers came here looking for the missing child. The team leader carefully directed the group to climb the stairs. He couldn't help but be surprised when he saw what was going on in the room. A group of cocoon-like things were hanging in midair. At this point another car arrived outside. Inside was the Reaper squad. The hedgehog in the driver's seat was waiting impatiently. I don't understand why the superiors sent those soldiers out. Beige on the other side comforted him. After all, their department is still reviewing. The police presence has priority in the investigation. Right at this moment, the car's communicator sounded a request for backup. Just now, the soldiers took the liberty of releasing the cocoons to save the children. The team leader's men opened the cocoons to see. There was indeed a child inside. The team rushed to open another cocoon. Just as he was getting confused, the head was instantly penetrated by something in this. A humanoid mosquito bug beast appeared in front of the crowd. Team leader looked at this insect beast and was slow to slow down. Another teammate hurriedly fired at the insect beastoid, but the insect beastoid disappeared in a flash. When he reappeared, he had already penetrated the body of his teammate. The beast then immediately turned around and stabbed at the team leader again. Suddenly a gunshot interrupted the attack. The hard needle is also penetrated by the bullet. It turns out that, on the distant towers, Beige had been waiting with a sniper rifle for a long time. But the bug was too fast. He missed the target. The attacked insect beast is extremely angry. Then he charged at the team leader again. But the hedgehog appeared just in time to block the bugbear's attack. And then he knocked the beast away with a stick. The insect beast was heavily set in the wall. The captain took this opportunity to have someone take the child and leave first. How can a bug beast give up its food so easily? He rushed towards the child in anger. The captain saw this and simply exhaled a soft puff of green smoke. The bug that smelled the cigarette instantly fell to the ground. Then the captain asked, "What is your purpose in capturing these children?" The bug beast yanked the needle off with one hand, saying that it was food prepared to destroy the black ants. The two men didn't quite understand what he was talking about. He took advantage of the two men's inattention. The beast spat some darts out of its mouth and shot at them. The captain spits out smoke again. The dart miraculously stopped in midair. The hedgehog also blocked the attack by waving his stick. The insect beast knew it was no match for the two, and took the opportunity to fly out the window. The captain saw this and quickly alerted Beige to snipe. But Beige fell to the ground after being hit by several darts due to his inexperience. The two people inside the house could only watch the insect beasts escape. On the other hand, Name was sitting on a chair in the park. Looking at the man with glasses being honored in the phone, she got very angry. Because her best friend Shurjin was disfigured and lying in the hospital. It was because the man with glasses pulled her at the time. Suddenly a boy in a mask appeared. Name was taken aback. But then he was educated by Nime. The boy had to cry and go to his mother to complain. Why do I have such a naughty brother when I'm so late-alike? When Name turned around again, and found that Shinny had somehow arrived. Shinny also noticed Name off to the side. So the three of them sat down and ate ice cream together. After eating the ice cream, the brother ran off to play with another child. The boy accidentally kicked the ball off the field. The brother said he would go with the boy to find the ball. Then he followed him through the broken hole in the barrier. Shinny seemed to sense something. Tell Name to wait here, outside the containment grid. Shinny held down her brother who was climbing out. Shinny told him to go back to his sister. He himself was looking for something in the woods. He soon found another little boy with a soccer. The boy thought he had met his kind, so he kindly came forward to say hello. Shinny ignored the boy. Instead, he tore off the band-aid from his neck. At once, dense ants crawled out of Shinny's body. The boy instantly looked shocked, looking at Shinny, who was wrapped in black ants. He recognized it as a fellow hunter, the black ant. The boy crushed the soccer in his hand in anger. Then he accused the black ants of all kinds of crimes. How dare you, who violated the rules of insect beasts and beasts, lay hands on your own kind. I'll kill you. After saying that, the boy builds up his strength in place. The body instantly disappeared from the spot. Only the shattered mask remained. By now the boy had become a mosquito beast. Shinny was hit in the head when she was too late to dodge. The broken armor reveals the cold half of Shinny's face. The insect beast wounded the black ant with a single blow. He was inevitably a little proud. Looking at a motionless Shini, the insect beasts were going back and forth around him, showing off his speed. Shini, on the other hand, scratched his head with a bemused look. And then with one punch he smashed the insect beast into the ground. Then Shini came out of the jungle and came to Name's side. He told brother, "The ball has been found and people have been sent away." They didn't know that the insect beast was being slowly eaten by Shini's ants. The boy had a hole dug in his neck by ants. He had to provide a lot of food for the ants every day, or else the ants would go crazy and bite inside him. The feeling was excruciating. Also, the ants provided Shini with great strength. Previously, due to the bug beast incident in Shini's class, after a week of suspension, everyone went back to school again in separate classes. At this time in the school classroom, the man with the glasses was still bragging about how brave he was at the time, forgetting that he was the one who dragged Shurjin into the abyss. Name, on the other side, wanted to go up and give him a kick. However, the girl sitting next to her couldn't stand it first. She stood up and kicked the man with glasses in the stomach. The man with the glasses was stunned by her action. At this point the girl said viciously, "You piece of garbage. It's too noisy." Name learned from all the chatter that the girl's name was Manhwa. No one in the class dared to mess with her. Just as Manhwa was about to go out, she was stopped in her tracks by an oncoming Shini. The two were looking at each other. Both sides seemed to sense something. After a long time, Shini walked into the classroom first. He sat down next to Naime with his butt. And then, while eating a snack and listening to each other talk about Manhwa's cool behavior, suddenly Shini sensed Bug Beast nearby. When Naime wanted to invite Shini to dinner at noon, she found that he was long gone. By this time Shini had already left the campus over the wall. On the other side, two reapers were heading to the school. They couldn't find any sign of the mosquito beast anywhere. And at the same time there were no more disappearances of children. They didn't know that the mosquito beast had been eaten by Shini. At that moment Shini suddenly came out of the alley and ran right into the captain. Looking at Shini's anxious face, the captain thought about it but didn't pursue it. The two then continued to walk towards the campus. In fact, the purpose of their trip was to find Shini. When they found Name told them that Shini had just gone out. The two men also realized that the student they had just met was probably Shini. So they pulled out a business card and handed it to Name, hoping that she would pass it on to Shini, and then left the place in a hurry. At the same time, under a viaduct, a humanoid praying mantis clinging to a wall. He was in the dark, seemingly expecting someone to come. Soon a figure slowly appeared. The visitor was none other than the black ant. Shini followed the scent and found this mantis beast. Saw the target appear. The mantis also fell slowly from the wall. And then he waved to Shini, as if to say, "Come on over."
Shini no bullshit.
His legs suddenly went straight to the mantis. But Shini's attack was not only easily deflected by mantis. His arm was also deformed by the scythe blow. And then mantis kicked Shini hard in the chest with his back leg. Not waiting for Shini to stabilize herself, the mantis came at him again. He didn't know that this was a deliberate break put in by Shini. A heavy punch to the face of mantis. The beaten mantis swayed itself like a puppet, very strange. Shini was also a little confused by his movements. After careful observation, Shini suddenly realized that his ants were hovering behind him. Someone must have been behind the mantis with a silk thread. To confirm his suspicions, he scattered some of the ants in his hands, and then he threw it hard at the mantis. The mantis is not moved by the flying ants. But these ants weren't meant to attack him. At this point the ants were climbing up the silk thread. The manipulator can only cut the threads. And the mantis fell to the ground with the break of the thread. While she was looking at the thread in his hands in confusion, the body of the mantis moved again. His head suddenly slammed into Shini. He then opened his mouth wide, revealing the bomb that was about to explode inside. The smoke from the explosion instantly drowned Shini. Immediately afterwards, two bug beasts came out from behind the curtain. At this point Shini was leaning hard against the wall. It's obvious that he's been hurt quite a bit. Shini from the aura emanating from the two insect beasts. "I'm afraid it's not going to be easy this time." One of the silk ants stepped forward and put a foot on Shini's shoulder. "We finally caught you. Don't you just love protecting humans? You also killed the mosquito beast, right?" Shini chose to remain silent in the face of her enemy's questioning. This time the exploding ant beast also came over. "And because of you we lost fresh meat. You must pay for this." And with that the exploding ant raised his arm and aimed it at Shini. But the silkworm ants came out early. He kicked Shini in the head. But he found out that Shini's body wasn't inside. This is just an empty shell. The exploding ants suddenly warned him to be careful. Turns out that Shini, who had shed her armor, had jumped on top of them, smashing hard at the head of the silk ants. After landing, start pushing hard on toes. The body quickly rushes towards the exploding ants. Shinny's movements are flowing in a single breath. The exploding ants are backing up. In the end, he couldn't withstand Shinny's attack and took a heavy punch. But the explosive ants also used their hind legs to shoot the cannonball at Shinny. And it hit Shinny's body solidly. But the armor on his arm blocked most of the damage. Shinny knew he couldn't give him a chance to breathe, so he raised his fist again and swung it at the exploding ants. But just as his fist was a few centimeters away from the exploding ants, the arm got tangled up in some thin blue threads. He couldn't move forward anymore, so he was being controlled by the silk ants behind him. And then the silk ants jumped into midair. The body keeps spinning, pulling Shinny towards herself with a thin thread. A final super roundhouse kick to Shinny's head, although Shinny blocked the blow with her armored arm. But the huge impact still caused blood to flow from his mouth and nose, and he flew out tens of meters. And finally Shinny fell to her knees. Exploding ants took advantage of Shinny's temporary unconsciousness, aiming the energy cannon in his hand at his head. Seeing that the charge is about to end, Shinny suddenly came to her senses. Feeling bad, Shinny immediately shouted at the armor's place. Move. The black ants receive Shinny's command to disintegrate quickly. Subsequent disintegration into black matter, converging towards Shinny's place. But by this time, the explosion had already finished charging. He didn't hesitate to pull the trigger on Shinny's head. But the explosion was aimed at the top of the bridge above. It turned out that the hedgehog had come in time to change the trajectory of the shells with a stick in his hand. And afterwards he taunted, "Are these the fireworks that were set off to greet me?" Then he waved the stick in his hand to force back the enemy. Two insect beasts gathered together, like a great enemy, because the captain of the Reaper squad also came here. "Let me be your opponent. All of you trash." Explosive ants perceive this person is not simple. He pulled a ball out of the barrel. Two people saw the situation suddenly felt bad. Before the two men could react, exploding ants slamming the ball into the ground. A large amount of smoke instantly enveloped several people. The silk ants took the opportunity to fly away, dragging the exploding ants with them. The hedgehog couldn't help but complain. "These flying insect beasts are disgusting." The captain froze in place with an embarrassed face. But it was good to catch the black ants. But just when the two went up to catch the black ant, they found that he was also missing. In the blink of an eye the night came. Shinny dragged her wounded body slowly towards home, holding on to the wall. The first thing he did when he got home was to ask his grandmother to prepare a table of food. Looking across at Shinny, who was covered in bruises, Grandma asked while she was in tears, "Did you not eat anything today?" Shinny didn't hide. "I didn't catch any of them today, so I'm going to eat more," even though he knows it doesn't really work. After eating, Shinny returned to her room. The first thing he did was lock himself up. Then he began to hiss in a low voice, as if to meet a great pain. When he ripped off his shirt, his body was covered with dense red spots. These red dots are spreading at a rate visible to the naked eye. This is exactly why the ants inside him are eating his flesh and blood. Except for the insect beasts, human food doesn't satisfy them. The mental and physical torture was extremely painful for Shinny.
If you are enjoying the video, hit the like button. Please also subscribe as it helps our channel greatly.
The boy's body is full of ants. To prevent these ants from running around, he had to seal the hole with a band-aid, although the ants gave him superpowers. But the premise is to prepare insect beast for them as food every day. Just now, Shinny was ambushed by two advanced insect beasts while searching for insect beast. Almost lost his life, although he ended up dragging his wounded body back home. But the ants that didn't get to eat insect beast tore wildly inside him. The mental and physical torture was killing Shinny. Meanwhile, in an abandoned factory building, a mysterious woman in a protective suit is dragging 3 body bags forward. She's putting the 3 body bags into the freezer compartment. Just as she was about to put the last one in, she noticed that the person in the bag was calling to her. But she put it in the freezer anyway. No matter how much the other side cried out, she still ruthlessly closed the hatch. Afterwards, she went to the warehouse to remove her protective clothing. This is none other than Manhwa, the cool guy from Shinny's class. Manhwa is next to an old man. The old man was complaining. It was because of the Reaper squad that they didn't catch the black ant, causing failure to form an alliance with the Skyworm organization. As you can see here, they are the 2 insect beasts that fought with Shinny during the day. Then the old man said he wanted to increase the food reserves. But this was rejected by Manhwa. She didn't like to do this kind of thing. But old man suddenly found Manhwa is wearing the same school uniform as Black Ant. "Do you guys know each other?" Manhwa knocked off the old man's arm and hastily denied it. Old man said it's okay. As long as you two are in the same school, you have a chance to kill him. But Manhwa refused again. That's not what she wanted to do. But before she could finish her sentence, old man grabbed Manhwa's neck. He reminded Manhwa that she had to kill the black ant if she wanted to cooperate with the Skybug organization. At this point, the sound of a dog barking outside suddenly attracted the attention of both men. Looking out the window, a man with a number on him is running out the door. Old man immediately pulled up the surveillance. He found out that the man had escaped from the freezer compartment. Old man looking back at Manhwa. Did you forget to lock the door? Manhwa stammered and replied, maybe. After hearing this, the right hand began to bug out and went towards Manhwa. It's better if you tell the truth. Manhwa saw the situation and immediately said she wanted to quit, ready to part ways with the old man. And she saw that the old man gently snapped his thumb on his index finger. Meanwhile, the man fleeing outside the house stopped his body. A faint glow emanated from his chest, and then the man was drowned in the explosion. Then the old man raised his thumb again. The same glow appeared on Manhwa's chest. The old man with a grim gaze and said, kill the black ant. This is an order. The next day at noon, Shinny ate in the cafeteria like a hungry ghost. Name next to her felt that Shinny was eating more than usual. Shinny was completely oblivious to the eyes of others, desperately trying to get food into her mouth. Suddenly his pupils contracted, and the spoon fell to the ground, because the ants inside him started to eat his flesh and blood again. Looking at Shinny's uncomfortable face, Name couldn't help but worry, and then the pesky glasses guy came over and messed up. Shinny, what's wrong with you? Are you a pig? One person eats that much. Name on the side trying to help Shinny out. He usually eats like 10 people. The average person can't eat 10 servings of food. Or are you not human in the first place? The people around also cast a strange look after hearing, including Manhwa, who came in behind. The man with the glasses doesn't realize the seriousness of the situation, continuing the mad mockery of Shinny. He didn't know that Shinny was on the verge of going crazy. Just then, and another ant sank into Shinny's flesh. Shinny's body shook, grabbed the chattering man with the glasses, then like a chicken slowly carried him to the mid-air. Just as Shinny was about to finish off the glasses guy, Name behind him stopped him just in time. Shinny, who had regained her senses, threw him out, and left without looking back. In the blink of an eye, he ran to the top of the building. At this point, the ants in his body ran outward uncontrollably. Shinny hissed in pain. The converging ants form another head, trying to fight for control of Shinny's body. At this moment, Huion, who was following him, suddenly appeared behind Shinny. Do you want everyone to know that you are Black Ant? She said she meant no harm while her body began to bestialize. Seeing a fully bestialized Huion, Shinny's hunger grew stronger and stronger, and then his body rushed uncontrollably towards Huion, and Huion put her hands together. Then several blue threads condensed in the hands. The two of them instantly wrestled with each other. The fight was on the verge of breaking out. The screen turns. Shinny slowly opened her eyes, only to find his body crawling with ants, and the limbs were pulled firmly by 4 giant ants. Just as Shinny was hissing in pain, a much larger ant slowly appeared behind Shinny. The giant ant aimed its pincers at Shinny's head. Just as he was about to bite Shinny, a red ant came out of nowhere and saved Shinny. In a flash, he destroyed all the black ant. When he woke up again, he found himself in bed, and the pain in his body was gone. All he remembers is meeting Manhwa on the rooftop, who had turned into a silk ant. He learned from his grandmother that Manhwa had carried him back last night. It looks like she's been hurt a lot too. Shinny was a little confused after hearing that. Why is Manhwa still alive? Didn't my ants go quiet because they ate Manhwa? Suddenly Shinny became aware again of the presence of insects beast in the vicinity. The image of the old man came to mind. Can't hear what grandma's saying to him at all. That old man asked Manhwa out on a date. Immediately blamed her for making a mess of things. Manhwa said she did the best she could. But the bad old man wasn't satisfied. Let her take care of the black ant as soon as possible. Manhwa was immediately furious at what she heard. That guy was a monster. If you can, you go. I don't want to die. Old man listened. The eyes showed fierce light. But just then, the sound of footsteps behind them interrupted their argument. A dark figure slowly emerged from under the bridge. It was the black ant who were following the scent. The two men were in a state of shock. Instant bestial mode. Don't let me down this time. As soon as the old man finished, Manhwa took the lead and rushed up. Manhwa lifted his right leg and kicked Shinny hard. But the blow was easily deflected by her opponent. Meanwhile, Shinny's ants quickly gathered in hands. A huge fist slammed down on Manhwa's body. The power of this punch directly broke Manhwa's armor. Manhwa, who had been hit hard, realized clearly that this guy had gotten stronger again. But Shinny doesn't continue to attack Manhwa, but instead went to the explode ant on the side. But Manhwa suddenly grabbed Shinny's foot from behind. Are you taking pity on me? And then she shouted angrily at Shinny. If I can't even catch you, how can I take revenge on the Skyworm organization? At this point, the explode ants slowly raised their thumbs. And Hui, you really look like a poor bug now. And Hui panicked when she saw the explosive ants in action, shouting for him to stop. Explode ant saw that Hui had no use for him and told the truth. Do you think I'm really going to help you get revenge? I did everything so I could join the Skyworm organization. And Hui, knowing the truth, went on a rampage. I've done so many dirty things for you. In the end, I can only die unwillingly? Explode ant don't want to listen to her crap. And then he was ready to press his thumb. But then Shini suddenly disappeared from the spot. Explode ant can't see Shini's position at all. But then there was a sudden explosion next to Hui. A black shadow instantly flashed by and ran quickly towards the explode ant. And the explode ant let out a scoff. You can't get out of my heat wave minefield. But soon he couldn't stop laughing, because the impact of the explosion couldn't catch up with Shini's speed. The explode ant saw the bad situation, firing a cannonball at Shini. But Shini easily dodged his attack. Then the explode ant were ready to press their thumbs. He tried to attract Shini's attention by detonating the bomb on Hui's body. But before he could react, Shini then grabbed his arm. And when he tried to press it, he found that his body was out of control, because Shini had taken off his head. When Hui saw Shini again, he found that he had evolved into a whole new form. And Hui was also shocked by how powerful Shini was. The explode ant that had been suppressing her were thus taken care of by him. Shini looked at his body in thought. He then gives the command to the ants, eat him. After saying that, Shini slowly regained his body. The ants that hadn't eaten the insect beast for 2 days started to gnaw on the corpses of the explode ant like crazy. And Hui's eyes were wide with fear at this cruel scene. At that moment Shini also came to her side and looked at her indifferently. And Hui closed her eyes and waited for death to come. But Shini didn't take a shot at her, and passed right by her. And Hui, however, was not happy but angry. You guys, why don't you kill me? Do you want to fight the Skyworm organization as much as I do? Shini stops and turns around and asks faintly, what misunderstanding did we have on the rooftop? And Hui was a little confused by the question. Did you really forget? At that time, the two were dueling on the rooftop. Shini quickly knocked Hui down. By now Shini was frantically suppressing the black ant desire to feed. But it still broke free and rushed towards Hui. And at this critical moment, Shini caught the black ant by the neck just in time. Stop, this is not edible. It sees the mouth of food cannot eat. Black ant turned his head in anger, and then opened its mouth at Shini. Luckily, Hui was able to control the black ant that was going to eat Shini. But Hui knew she wouldn't last long. Just then, one of the ants in Shini's body mutated. With a scream from Shini, the giant black ant disappeared instantly. Shini also fainted unconscious. And just when Hui was wondering whether to kill Shini or not, she suddenly thought that this guy might be able to fight against the Heavenly Bug Organization. Shini was then sent back home. After what just happened, Shini was convinced of this. And Hui went on to try to bring him in to take on the Skyworm organization. You just took out the explode and so the supply chain of Skyworm's food reserves has been cut off. And when that happens, it's not just you. Your friends and family will be in danger. The odds are better if we both work together. Shini steps forward and interrupts Hui's conversation. He then grabbed Hui with his ant-covered palm. You're just incapable and want to find a backer. But I'm not like you. As long as those guys come, I'll eat them all. After saying that, Shini grabbed Hui's neck. Countless ants burrowed into Hui's mouth. After a long time, Hui slowly opened his eyes. It turns out that Shini was only doing this to help her get rid of the bomb in her body. The next day, the Reaper team sealed off the accident site. Just as the interns were picking up the prosthetic limbs left over from the explode ant, suddenly a small pill fell out of it. Before the intern could see what it was, and there's a strange person outside trying to break in. Long Hair saw this and hurriedly held the man down. He said to him to leave. But the man just gently raised his hand to cut off one of the arms of the Long Hair. Shaggy instantly let out a heartbreaking scream. Realizing that there was something wrong with him, everyone pulled out their weapons and got ready to fight. Not only was he not nervous, but he showed an excited expression. He killed a Reaper squad member with a single punch. In the blink of an eye, there was only this intern left. But he couldn't escape the clutches of the man in the end. Then the man picked up the capsule on the ground. Then he dialed a phone number. Sample recovery is complete. On closer inspection, the sample was a worm egg. On the other hand, Shini was in class as usual, and Hui used the silk thread ability to shoot a note. The note flew past Name's eyes and landed in Shini's hands. The note reads, "Meet me downstairs after class." Soon the two arrived as promised. Seeing how mute Shini was, and Hui couldn't help but tease, "Is this your first time talking to a girl like this?" Shini didn't say anything. He asked him directly what the purpose of her visit was. and Hui just wanted to simply thank him for not killing her yesterday. Then invited Shinny again to fight against the Skyworm organization. But Shinny told her not to misunderstand. You're just my spare food. I could eat you at any time. After saying that, he was ready to tear off the band-aid. Although Hui was shaking with fear. But she still reminded Shinny. Did you forget what I said? You're already a target of the Skyworm organization. I'll help you. But Shinny didn't want to hear any more of her crap and just pushed her away. They didn't know. All this was watched by Name upstairs. She doesn't know when the two got together. The two seemed to be flirting in her eyes. This made Name more or less jealous. And look at the Reaper squad side. To improve the survivability of the team, they developed mechs to deal with insects. And it was the hedgehog of the squad that was used as a test subject. For more accurate testing of mechs, the captain told the hedgehog that he could not use his own weapon. The hedgehog, who was used to using a long stick, saw the lightsaber now. He showed a face full of disgust. And at that moment the person he was fighting against came out on the other side. But the uncle looked sickly and seemed to have little strength. But when he heard that he could kill his opponent, he immediately got excited. In the blink of an eye, the uncle disappeared in the same place. Before the hedgehog had time to react, the uncle in the guise of insect beast had come up behind him. The hedgehog hurriedly blocked and used his strength to pull away. Seeing no substantial damage to himself, the hedgehog was pleased with the mech's defense. Insect beast, however, is now cruising around the hedgehog at 300 miles per hour. Seeing that the time was right, Insect Beast throws a punch at the hedgehog. Although the hedgehog blocked Insect Beast's terrifying blow, but the armor on his arm was also clearly cracked. But the hedgehog, with his years of combat experience, backhanded Insect Beast and slashed him. And then he delivers a heavy kick to pull away. But the arm of the mech was also broken. The Insect Beast saw this and charged at him again with excitement. By this time the hedgehog had lost the ability to fight. He frantically asked for help from outside. But before he could finish his sentence, Insect Beast grabbed him by the neck. The hedgehog struggled desperately. Was he going to die in the lab? Suddenly, a tremendous electric current electrified Insect Beast and made him scream. He soon lost consciousness. It turns out that in a near-death situation the mech will send out 100,000 volts of electricity to attack the enemy. Afterwards the Insect Beast was again dragged away by the sleeve. As he was leaving, he turned around and taunted the hedgehog. Next time I will kill you. After the battle, the captain also left the place. He came to the archives, where he found out about the leader of the Skyworm organization, Brad. This beautiful woman is not actually human. At this point she spits out a yellow worm egg in her mouth. And then she cupped Shurjan's chin. And then she put the eggs in her opponent's mouth. Shurjan was thus transformed into the ugly insect beast. She became a pawn of the insects. At this point Hui was working with Shinny, finally revealing her true purpose. In fact, her target is not the Skyworm organization, but their leader Brad. Hearing the word Brad, Shinny suddenly became excited. Shinny's face was written with anger and resentment, because Brad was the one who killed his mother, and he was also the one who broke up Hui's family. On the very day when school was over, Hui stalked Shinny again, but soon after they walked out of school, Shinny's familiar feeling came back. He looked carefully at the pedestrians around him, finally fixing his gaze on a couple. One of the men was a bug beast hiding among the humans. Hui, who had finished buying ice cream, noticed Shinny's strange appearance. She learned from Shinny's mouth, the man in front is an insect beast. On the other hand, Name came from school to visit Shurjan in the hospital. But Shurjan didn't want to be seen in her current state, and drove Name straight away. But just as Name was about to leave the hospital, a nurse passed by her. Name couldn't help but look twice at such a beautiful woman. Shortly afterwards Shurjan in the ward noticed someone coming in. She thought it was Name and immediately shouted a rebuke. But when this person came closer, it was the same nurse that had just been there. Do you want to be even more beautiful than before? I can help you. After that she spit out a yellow worm egg in her mouth. A closer look shows that this is the same one that the explode ant dropped. You want to take out the nasty ones too, don't you? I'll help you get your wish. And then the eggs were sent into Shurjan's mouth. Shurjan's body suddenly trembled, and the woman gloated at the change in her. A sharp pain suddenly came out of Shurjan's body, causing her to roar out loud. Seeing Shurjan's face, the woman also became very excited. On the other hand, the insect beast took the girl to the swimming pool, and then kicked the girl into the pool while she was not prepared. When the girl resurfaced, there was no sign of her boyfriend. She didn't know that there were eyes underwater watching her. It was the boyfriend who had dived under the water at some point. At this time the man grinned. Then he suddenly grabbed the girl's foot and made a throwing motion with force. The girl's head hit the bottom of the water hard and lost consciousness. The man looked at the girl floating up and complained. Such a pain in the ass to hunt every day. And then he opened his big mouth and he was ready to eat the girl. But just then an ant suddenly crawled on his face. The man then looked back at the glass. It turned out that Shinny, who had turned into a black ant, had arrived here at some point. Shinny smashed the glass with one punch. And then he leapt. A heavy kick to the man's stomach. This kick sent the man straight into the wall. But the man acted as if nothing had happened, and he got up and he hit Shinny back. Shinny took the punch solidly, taking advantage of the gap when Shinny was knocked away. And Hui has set up the net of heaven and earth, only to see several silkworms appear in front of the man. In a flash he was wrapped into a dumpling, and Hui then pulled the girl out of the water again. It's a good thing the girl only fainted. It wasn't life-threatening. After settling the girl down, and Hui returned to Shinny's side. At this point the man was not the least bit afraid, and questioned why the two men were disturbing their kind to eat. You guys are really tired of living. Do you know who I am? Shinny says he doesn't care. You're just food to me. And just as Shinny was about to go up and eat him, and Hui stopped him, she thought she could get some clues from this person. And the man recognized Shinny. He was the fellow hunter Black Ant. I didn't know you had an accomplice. But you're not qualified to kill me. And with that the man began to bestialize. And Hui was very confident in her silk threads. But by this time the man had also completely completed his bestialize. And the threads slowly split with the light. The aura emanating from the man made Shinny startled. Get out of the way! But Shinny's warning was too late. Numerous blades of chi came out of the man's body, and Hui was too late to dodge and was hit in the shoulder. Shinny barely managed to block the blow with the hard armor of the black ant. In a flash, the entire room was left with deep grooves from the air blade. Then another voice came from their ears. You two might be able to bully a normal insect beast, but I am a member of the Skyworm organization. You guys are really not afraid of death. I'm Camel of the Skyworm organization. If you are not convinced, you can try again. The two men smell the words and prepare for battle, and then they pounced on Camel together. But their best moves were easily defeated by the enemy. Camel's hand slashed through the water, leaving several streaks of shadow. Then he came behind the two people in a flash. Camel's hand sword emitted a sword aura that pierced the bodies of both men. The wounded Shinny could only let his body fall. Camel saw the right moment to aim his hand knife at the falling Shinny. Luckily, Hui reacted in time and took the risk to save him. The two of them did not dare to be careless at this point. It was clear that this pool was Camel's home turf. Just get close and you'll be attacked. But while Hui was trying to figure out what to do with this monster, but Shinny, who was on the other side, went straight up. Meanwhile, he reminds Hui to cover the entire pool with your silk threads. Although Hui doesn't quite understand, but did as Shinny asked. Using Hui's silk thread as a relay point, Shinny darted towards Camel. He had to transform into a red ant again to have any chance of defeating him. Soon Shinny is in front of Camel, but did not wait for him to strike, but the enemy cut off a tentacle. Shinny immediately fights back, but it was easily dodged. And next Shinny's punches are getting faster and faster. The body began to gradually change color. With a lot of effort he finally hit Camel in the face. Then another punch hit Camel's left arm. And then the right hand. Watching Camel's two weapons come out of his hands, Shinny wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to take out her opponent in one fell swoop. But a sword suddenly passed by him, cut off his facial armor. At this point Camel not only has his leg fused with the hand sword he just dropped, both hands also draw two more powerful weapons behind him. This is my real strength. After all is said and done, he arrived behind Shinny in a flash. Shinny was also hit by Camel's cross slash. The armor broke instantly. Blood sprays out. Camille thought he had won, but found many blue threads wrapped around the weapon. And Hui suddenly appeared behind Camel. And with his hands he pulled the thread tightly, while his knees hit the back of Camel's head hard, although the blow destroyed the armor of Camel's face. But Hui was also pierced by the sudden appearance of the light blade. And Hui continued to control the silk threads through the severe pain and threw Camel's knife into the air. Shinny seizes the opportunity to leap up and catch the sharp knife, stabbed Camel hard in the chest. But it wasn't enough to kill the enemy, only to see Camel swing another sharp knife at Shinny. Shinny had no way to escape and had to block the blow with her arm. And the blade was halfway into his arm. In a stalemate, Shinny sent a large number of ants crawling towards Camel's wound. Camel, who was being eaten by ants, let out a creepy scream. But just after killing Camel, another uninvited guest came. Shinny was just about to turn around and check the situation, and this man blasted him in the face. Shinny was slammed hard into the wall, apparently unconscious, and Hui was also lying on the surface of the water at some point. The man who came was the same fierce man who attacked the Reaper team earlier. He carried Camel and did not continue his attack on Shinny. Instead, he shoots a card at Shinny. The card says, the sixth club. This woman spits out a yellow worm egg in her mouth and fed it to the girl across the room. Then the girl turned into the dreaded insect beast. Today was Shurjin's first hunt as an insect beast. The fresh meat across the street has been waiting here for a long time.
Voir une belle fille comme Shizen.
The fresh meat still looks shy. Beauty, I know a nice hotel nearby. Can I take you to a game? Shurjin heard a pout. Handsome, you are so bad. While talking, Shurjin took off his mask. The fresh meat is suddenly a youthful flutter inside. Shurjin took the opportunity to stand on tiptoe and kiss him directly. This happiness came a little too suddenly. But the next moment the boy's eyes were wide open. At this point his skin was drying out rapidly at a rate visible to the naked eye, until Shurjin sucked up every last drop before releasing him. The boy who had fallen to the ground was clearly not breathing. At that moment another beautiful woman came into the alley. She was the woman who fed Shurjin the worm eggs. She held Shurjin tight, as if to show that this is her plaything. Baby, how does it feel to be on your first hunt? It's not bad. Tastes beautiful. Meanwhile, on a speeding subway, an uncle with a very unnatural expression was muttering something to himself. This drew strange looks from the crowd. At that moment, the uncle suddenly opened his mouth wide. The esophagus with sharp teeth inside was revealed. The few people in front of him are strung together like candy canes. This scene caused an immediate panic among the crowd. At this point, the uncle turned into the Grim Reaper and kept reaping the lives of the people in the car. It didn't take long for the carriage to stop screaming. Only the uncle was left writhing grotesquely. On the other hand, Name was walking to school. Suddenly, she noticed a familiar figure in front of her. It was her crush, Shinny. So Name rushed forward to say hello. Good morning, Shinny. But when she saw Shinny's face, she was stunned. What's wrong with you? Shinny could only explain. It's from fighting with other people. He couldn't tell her that he was beaten up by Insect Beast yesterday, right? Just after returning to class, Name saw a dazed Shurjin. Name was so happy that she jumped right at her. Seeing her best friend recover, Name was so excited that she shed tears. I didn't see you at the hospital last time. Do you know how worried I was? Sorry, Name. I didn't want people to see my hair the way it is now. The two of them were talking and laughing as if they were back in the beginning again. But suddenly an unexpected visitor interrupted their conversation. The person who came is the glasses guy who victimized Shurjin. Not only did he not feel sorry for Shurjin at this point, and he kept mocking Shurjin's scars for being so disgusting. The head is so ugly. This instantly made Shurjin furious. She wanted to eat him alive right now. But before she could do anything, Name aside punched the glasses guy first. Name, who was always so gentle, just yelled at glasses guy. If it weren't for your greed for life and death, will Shurjin become what he is now? Because of Name's help, this tempered Shurjin's anger. Glasses guy said he was sorry though, but there was clearly some resentment inside. You guys wait for me. Shinny also sensed the difference in Shurjin's anger just then. This is clearly not a human scent. On the other side of the train, the murderous uncle had completely transformed into a giant flesh worm. At this point, the man with the Reaper logo on his clothes walked into the carriage. This man was the brother of the Ripper team, Jack, and walking in the front door is the older brother Jesse. Their arrival immediately caused Insect Beast's displeasure. The two men blocked Insect Beast in the middle. The doctor told us to take this back for research. Be careful not to break it. This statement instantly angered the giant bug, and it opened its mouth at Jack. But before he could cry out, Jack stabbed him in the body. And a few more rounds. Didn't I warn you not to break it? But before Jesse could finish his sentence, he was knocked aside by the giant bug with his tail. No way, brother, are you dead? An Insect Beast take this opportunity to use the tail to press Jack hard. I can't be overwhelmed with this power alone. You're not even close to my big brother. After saying that, the whole giant worm was lifted into the air by him. Jesse took advantage of the opportunity to cut the giant insect in half. Just as the two were about to pack up the giant worm and take it away, a miniature worm crawls out of the giant worm's corpse. The little worm looks up at Jesse. Then its body shot into his head like a bullet. Looking at his brother whose body was shaking, Jack hurriedly asked, "What's wrong with you?" The next second he acted as if nothing had happened. But there's something strange swimming around inside his head. The girl was fed a worm egg, and she turned into a horrible insect beast. After feeding on the essence of a boy, she went back to school acting like nothing happened. After school, a few people were going to go eat kimchi together. But halfway there, Shurjin got a text message. She then made the excuse that she had to leave first. Name reluctantly said that it was okay to make another appointment tomorrow. But when Shurjin left, Shinny stared at her back and thought, and then he and Name were both ready to go home together. But then she suddenly remembered that Shurjin's homework was still in her school bag. The teacher is going to check the homework tomorrow. And she said goodbye to Shini and had to deliver the homework to Shurjin. But suddenly Shini took her hand. It's dangerous. Don't go. Shini's words left Name a little dazed. Shurjin had just been discharged from the hospital. The teacher will understand.
That's it for today's video. If you want the next part of this manhwa, like the video and comment, next part, for the next part. Also, subscribe and click the bell icon so you get the latest updates.